So we're now going to talk about resorts and leisure real estate and operations. Please welcome Catherine from Hotel 101, Marine from Club Med, and Nuno from Hyatt. Happy to be with you,
Happy to be
everyone.
here.
And right after, we are going to talk with Joanna Capoani about one more thing about campsites. She's from Swiss Life. But first of all, we are to talk, the three of us, about resort development. So, Catherine, sorry, excuse me. We just saw Anna, but for those who weren't there at that moment, could you explain to us what it is that you are doing with Hotel 101?
Thank you, Emmanuel. I think we're the only one on this panel right now that is not as well known as my neighbors here. So we're Hotel 101. So for those of you who missed my CEO's panel earlier, we're kind of the new kids on the block. So we're a developer and operator. We're going public on NASDAQ this year with Hotel 101. But we are essentially the very first hotel in the world to have a standard room everywhere, no matter where you are in the world. So we have a 21 square meter happy room that is standardized, and we plan to have 25 destinations in the next 3 years. At the moment, we're in 4 countries. We just came from Mexico last week. We're planning to go to Italy next week. So there's a lot of things that's happening with our group. And we're definitely here in MIPIM right now to see if we are able to find development partners where we can work together to expand our footprint in the world.
Okay, so the same question for the three of you, starting with you, Nuno. Which evolution did you see on the leisure market within the last years?
So it's always been a cornerstone of our industry. It's been very resilient, and it's been the sector that has been growing the most in the post-COVID recovery. In terms of the client base, what we are seeing in leisure guests is that they are looking more to a experiential and well-being tourism than they used to do in the past. And we are providing them with brands that give them those immersive, cultural, local, or well-being experiences. And as the sector has been growing and hotels have become more of an important asset class, we are seeing much more interest from investors as well into the leisure space, away from the typical corporate city center hotel sphere.
Yeah, actually, you made a little shift among Hyatt, because in 2021 you acquire Apple Leisure Group. You've announced a few months ago a partnership with Grupo Pinheiro. So you are
Yeah, it's
tearing up.
been part of our strategic focus. We have traditionally been known and very good at running city center corporate MICE hotels. And we were seeing both from a world of Hyatt members and general trends in the industry that there is this switch towards lifestyle and leisure. And so the acquisitions that we have made, Apple Leisure Group in 2021, gave us access to the all-inclusive resort market. So it's an entirely new segment that opened up for us. The Standard recently gave us the lifestyle angle. Grupo Pinheiro now is a partnership. Again, an additional tool in our toolbox to capture that leisure client base.
Marine, Club Med has been working in leisure tourism like forever in the hospitality industry. What are the big changes that you've been witnessing within the company?
Well, like Nuno said, travelers today are looking for more than just a vacation. They are looking for emotion. They are looking for experience, and their needs revolves around disconnection, reconnecting with loved ones, with nature, well-being. And after the pandemic, it seems that the all-inclusive model has gained momentum because travelers are looking for stress-free experiences. This is what we call at Club Med the l'esprit libre. It's creating the perfect holiday with the absolute peace of mind when you can enjoy a broad range of activities with your loved ones, families. And what's also new, I guess, is that the all-inclusive model is not only for budget-conscious travelers. The luxury market is actually gaining interest in that model.
Yeah, of course. Catherine, Hotel 101 has a very specific model, but anyways, you're positioning yourself on leisure tourism. Could you explain us how it works?
Yeah, I think that people misunderstand us that just because we have one type of room, that we are a city center, business hotel, or we're a certain type of hotel. That's where the creativity lies. The rooms are standardized, so it's always 21 square meter. However, in terms of amenities and facilities, because we always build large scale hotels, we actually spend a lot of money and we have that economy of scale to really build out that amenities and facilities depending on the location that we're in. So in Madrid, we're in Valdebebas, which is where EFEMA Convention Center is. It's by the airport. So that's more of a business hotel. And then in the Philippines, we're in Boracay, right? Which is well known for its beaches and resort. So we always, in terms of amenities and facilities, we will localize it to what's needed for that hotel. But our rooms are always standardized. And that's the reason for that is really for build efficiency, operational efficiency. And our model is a condo hotel, right? So at the end of the day, unit owners who invest in us, they want to ensure that they maximize the potential of the product and be able to make income from the operation of the hotel.
There's actually a keyword you just say, Catherine, which is local. Local, being in the destination and offering the opportunity to learn more about the territory and so on. No, how do you develop that, having a worldwide footprint and so many properties?
First of all, by keeping our hotels very individual. So we are not prescriptive when it comes to construction and interior design. So whether you're in Paris or Timbuktu, you actually do know from the look and feel of the property that you are in a certain location. Then we have brands that are tailored specifically to very experiential stays, especially our collection brands. We have a collection of hotels that have their own identity, their own story, their own history. I mean, the Martinez around the corner is a prime example. And they join Jianban Collection by Hyatt, collection brand that then provides experiences. The Hotel du Louvre in Paris has a very specific interior design that is linked to the history of the building. And then from an experience point of view, we offer our customers the opportunity to go behind the scenes in the Louvre Museum, which is just across the road, and see parts of the Louvre that are, normal tourists don't see. So it's kind of providing them, depending on your hotel, your market, your client, and what it is they're looking for in this destination, with things to do that are more than a hotel bedroom.
Marine, just to stay in France, there's a big difference between a resort in the Alps mountain and in the West Indies. So how do you create that locality?
For Club Med, we say that we are global, meaning we are a global brand, but with a local impact. So we think local in terms of client experience and etc. And design, guest experience.
Okay, let's talk about your partners, your investor, the guys that are giving you the money to help you develop. Have they changed, and do they understand a leisure product and the difference between MICE and leisure clientele and the way you have to adapt your products?
Well, the leisure asset class is also gaining more interest from diverse type of investor because it proved to be very resilient and bounced back really quick after COVID. So I guess it's gaining interest for a large portion of investors. I'd like also to mention the public financial institutions that are looking to develop the tourism in certain countries and are really eager to focus on that type of asset for the value added on local economy. For instance, we're partnering with the government of Benin to be the cornerstone of leisure tourism development for the country.
And did you want to add something on that topic?
I think investors are following trends to a certain extent. They are seeing that this leisure sector is resilient. Hotels are a proper asset class to more investors than historically was the case. I think investors are willing to take a bit more risk to gain more of the rewards that they may not necessarily have in more established locations. And so they are going to these destinations where that additional income is. And then it is about source markets. And, we have investors, we're very well known in Germany. We have investors in Germany. The German client goes to Spain and Portugal and Italy on holidays. And so that is a base of clients that knows already your brand, your hotels, your infrastructure, and that will follow you as you go into new destinations. And I think for investors, that is also critical.
And Ayat actually was really strong, as you say, on city destination and more corporate customers. And you had to absorb this giant of the leisure hospitality, which is Apple Leisure Group. How did you manage to do that? And how did you integrate that into your operation?
Well, it's not easy. It was a giant. It's a very different type of business. So you have to be very careful as you integrate these two businesses that you actually maintain the strength of each of them. IT was a challenge, the different systems, the fact that AI hotels give you all-inclusive packaged ways of booking that we didn't necessarily have in our traditional hotels. So that was a moving piece of the puzzle. But then I think the big advantage that we gained from acquiring ALG was a specialist resort infrastructure, their headquarters based in Mallorca, with 200 plus people that all they did for a living was fill resorts. So we got an immense sales, brand, revenue management infrastructure. And today, from the big hotel groups, we are the biggest in terms of portfolio of leisure brands, infrastructure of kind of leisure support that we can give to our customers.
If we flip that around, Marine, does Club Med is Club Med interested in the MICE customers, and do you develop a kind of offer for them?
We do have MICE infrastructures in some of our Club Meds, especially to help occupancy rate in the shoulder season. Depending on the destination, especially if you have a local market, local or regional market, and a good international accessibility to host groups.
Okay. Catherine,
You didn't ask me the earlier question, but I felt like I
you
had an
had-
answer to it. So I want
go
to
ahead,
tell
don't
you what I
worry.
want to say.
So let's rewind.
Rewind. I think that for us, what we really learned after COVID is that and no offense, but it's like the 3-star mid-scale hotels that have been super resilient in the market when economy is not doing well, right? People still travel. During COVID, even when difficult times are tough, people still travel, but they downgrade, right? They go from 5-star to 4-star, 4-star to 3-star. Our hotel in Manila in 2021 hit 96% because there was mandatory quarantine at that time. And people were like, if I'm going to be stuck in a room and I got to pay for it, I want value for money and I want that little kitchenette where I can heat up my own food. So I think for us, it's almost like learning from these crazy experiences that being in that segment of mid-scale economical doesn't mean that leisure travelers will not come to our hotels, but it's very affordable for all different type of segments, and we believe that we will continue to survive even when the economy or the situation is not the most good, right? But so we're super resilient in that respect.
Yeah. And actually, you said that leisure customers have more demands. It's not someone who is checking in at 8 at the evening, having breakfast, and leaving the hotel. You have to take care of him. He has to be entertained. He has to have memory. So how do you develop your products around those expectations, which are always moving and changing and shifting?
For me, well, we pioneered in experience because we invented basically the all-inclusive model back in the 1950. And for every new resort that we develop, we want to bring something new, innovative, that brings emotion, new sports, new adventures. For instance, the new resort that we're opening in South Africa next year will be a combination of a luxury beach resort and a family-friendly safari experience in a game drive reserve. So for each one of our locations, we pay attention to offer always something new, innovative and following trends.
But does that mean that in the former location, you also have to renew?
We renew, absolutely. For instance, paddle has become something really trendy. And so we're transforming the former tennis courts into paddle courts. So on each location, we always bring something new.
And that means investing money,
Exactly.
having capex. So you manage to convince your partner that it's for the best.
Exactly.
Okay. Nuno, do you want to add something
I
on
think
those?
it's very similar. It's about not being standard. It's about adapting on your existing stock and then making sure that everything is individualized to the specific location that you're building a new resort in. There's no two the same, not from a product point of view, not from an experience, not from a facility point of view. And also it depends from what type of leisure client it is you're having. There's very different segments in there. You mentioned it earlier. You go from luxury all the way down to family and someone who's seeking value for money. So that will determine as well how you deal with new trends.
Okay. And regarding your investors, your partners, the guys you're developing with, as you have a bigger brand portfolio, did you manage to reach new types of investors or?
Yes, certainly with all inclusive, we got a whole new market segment that we can tap into, but also a whole list of investors that now can actually join Hyatt as as an owner. That is a big change for us, and we have some of our more traditional hotel owners who are now exploring all-inclusive investment opportunities and vice versa, and we are exploring whether we can bring packages to some of our traditional leisure resorts. So there's a lot of kind of back and forth between the two and seeing how we can adapt and kind of position ourselves as good as we can within the sector.
Can we say that leisure products attract more like private equity, people who are really putting something of themselves in the products? Or would you say that it's also for institutional and there's no, I would say,
I think it depends on the location, the market, the product. Private equity tends to have a very finite horizon. They need to be in and out typically within the 5 years. So a new build, which takes 2 years, there's 2 years into their investment cycle. They have 3 years to stabilize and exit. So that doesn't work everywhere. Then you have owners, family offices who maybe are looking at wealth preservation, so can have a longer ramp up, can have a longer period where they hold the assets. And you just need to adapt to those requirements. There's no one fits all approach.
what about on your side, Marin, the type of investors?
We have all type of investors, institutional investors, REITs, family office, as I mentioned before, public financial institutions, and as you said, leisure is gaining interest for a more diverse investor base. Obviously, depending on geography, it's not the same type of investors. Usually, it's more regional, local investors, depending on the geography.
So this is where we come in because Nuno mentioned that there are sometimes investors that want to come in and they want to have an exit strategy within 5 years. We actually are looking for developers that are looking to exit. So we are not limited to only hotel developers. We are also interested in real estate developers that potentially may have land or have development that they would love for us to come in together with them, build the project together, sell the projects together, and then we will operate. And it allows them to exit immediately, or they can also stay on as one of the investors to our project. So we have that flexibility.
What are your priority territories to develop in the year to come? I know the world is big and you're everywhere, but
Well, I guess I will talk about one of our priorities. We pioneered the mountain all-inclusive vacation back in the 1950s, and mountain development will be one of our top priority in the coming years. Now we have over 20 resorts in all the top ski domains in the world, in North America, Europe, Japan, and China, and we're still looking to expand. I would like to underline the fact that we operate both in summer and in winter. And we believe that summer vacation, all-inclusive vacation, will is a new form of exotic travel for now. And of course, for sun destination, we're still looking to heaven on earth location with always having in mind the local and regional market plus international accessibility with bringing something new and innovative and a strong presence of local culture.
Nuno, you want to have?
I think we're very focused. We're not growing just for the sake of growing. We are going where a World of Hyatt members want to go. I think that's a big indicator. We are following some of the trends, and then we are implementing the strategy that made us buy ALG, that made us buy the Standard, and go into locations where these hotels are asked for, are in demand for. Specifically Europe, Northern Africa, the Middle East to some extent, but certainly Europe and North Africa. We are moving into more regional locations, so away from the big capitals where we have presence. We can continue to grow there, but we want to go in France, for instance. I need to be in Lyon, in Marseille, in Lille, in Strasbourg. We're not today. And then into resort locations. I mean, it's the topic of the panel. So where the tourists are going, that's where we want to be. But selective, with the right partner. We want people that want to grow long-term with us, not necessarily just in and out, and people that share similar values that we have as a company.
Hannah.
I think if anything, MIPIM has, it's what, day 2, I think? But it's been very helpful for us because we've been meeting a lot of potential developers in the region, but also outside of the region. So unlike the both of you who are very experienced and have lots of locations already, we're currently only in 4 countries, potentially 6 countries in the next few months. But we need to grow, and we want to grow in a blitzscaling version. So we are looking at, most of our people here today are probably in Europe. So we're looking at France, in Germany, in lots of European countries. We were just talking to someone for Belgium, so we're looking for partners that believe in us, believe in our product, and we're very happy to go in as co-partners, co-developers to expand our footprint in the world. So it is kind of global that we're looking to expand.
Yeah, so everywhere where people are traveling. Actually, Marine, you mentioned heaven on earth destination. Being in heaven means being close to the beach, to the front side, in the mountains. So in sometimes very fragile ecosystem. So how do you develop your products? Because we are not like 50 years ago or even 30, 20 years ago. Now we are aware of the impact of a resort on a destination.
Yes, Climate is really committed to sustainable tourism, and we have CSR strategy is at the very core of the development strategy. First, to preserve nature and the natural heritage with eco-certified building and eco-certification on the operation side, and always having in mind sharing value locally by developing the local communities we are in touch with.
No, your
So
point.
with us, everything evolves around, one of our main, aims as a company is a culture of care, and that has a environmental part to it. So very similar to you, we want to have green buildings. We have a zero emission target in terms of our developments and operations by 2050. We have a lot of systems in place, practices, technology in place that helps our hotels limit waste of water or of electricity, rubbish and garbage limitations. So that is one aspect to it. And then we place a lot of emphasis on the social, environmental aspects as well. So for instance, we have a high-rise strategy that's very strong in France. And last year, I think we employed a few hundred people that come from disadvantaged backgrounds. So they get an opportunity to get onto the, into work and to kind of build, something for themselves. And we work with all our local communities to involve them in terms of suppliers, providers of experiences. So it is really more than just being green.
Yeah. Yeah, it's becoming more and more a field of opportunities. You talked about people, Nuno, the impact you have with Rise Eyes and so on. It's actually really core when you're developing a leisure products because the memories with the connection you have with the welcoming team. How do you make them loyal, keep them within your company, and make sure that the product remains the product?
So we have our frequent traveler program, World of Hyatt, which is critical to everything we do. It's what keeps people with us. They earn the points as they go, like all of us here on business travel, and then we go and spend it with our families and the destinations that we want to go to. So that kind of underpins the retention of customers. We know that World of Hyatt members, they come back more, they stay longer, they spend more, to what you said earlier in terms of other facilities of the hotel. And then it's about remaining relevant with the right product in the right location and making sure that you focus on the human interaction, because at the end, hospitality is about an interaction between two or more people, to make sure that you give time to your employees to do that interaction piece. And that's where technology comes in. That's where AI, the buzzword, comes in. But so we are working very hard to try and improve the work environment of the people at the front desk and in client-facing positions, so that they can focus more on that human interaction with other people.
Catherine, being a young brain, I assume digital environment is a strength of yours.
Definitely. And the reason for that is, we're going public on NASDAQ, right? It's really because we see ourselves as a hospitality company backed by technology. In my previous life, I did work for one of the larger hotel operators. And I think one of the beauties of Hotel 101 is because we are the developer and the operator, we have the ability to dictate what technology goes into each of the hotel and have that control over every single property that we develop. We don't need the buy-in from owners. We don't need a buy-in from, unit owners, because it's part of the program when they sign on with us, right? And I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier about that human aspect, again, there's one thing that I want to highlight is that our parent company is a Filipino company. And those of you who've been to the Philippines, hospitality is in our hearts, at our core. So as we grow our brand, we want to ensure that every single hotel has that human touch point, because that's in our culture. And we want to ensure that every hotel can experience that. And so even though AI plays a big role in our hotels, for example, our app, we're spending a lot of money on that app so that we really can say that you can upload your passport, use your digital key to open the door, you get housekeeping, check out without ever having to see a human being. We still have 24/7 front desk. We still have staff that will be available to those who want that human touch. So I agree with you. That's what I'm saying.
I more than agree with that. At Club everything is about the human interaction. This is how you create emotion. This is how you create souvenirs. And we have our famous GOs, the international staff that goes around the whole portfolio. And wherever you are in the world, you can always find someone that speaks your language, that you will connect with, that will connect with your children. So it's at the very core of the Club Med experience.
And actually, Club Med is a loyalty program by itself. The brand Club Med is a loyalty program by itself.
Actually, what partners are looking for with Club Med is our dual expertise. We are a resort manager, but we're also a tour operating company. So we have presence in over 30 countries, which give access to partners to that large and wealthy customer base. And basically, we have the power to send people to even off-the-grid locations. And we've been creator of destination in the past, but it's still very true today.
Well, great. Now we are going to do one little step aside, because in the leisure industry we also have campsite. I'm calling Joanna to join us. Joanna, at Swiss Life, you've been working with campsite asset for several years now. You're one of the pioneers. And could you share with us the evolution of the equity story of this kind of assets?
Yeah, we entered this sector in 2018, recognizing that it was a very underserved niche within the wider hospitality sector. And our learning curve was structured along with a major transaction, a major sell and leaseback that with the operator called Vacances Select at the time. And that was one of the largest institutional transactions in this sector. And but the fundamentals of outdoor hospitality are very, very, very strong. I think what we have to acknowledge is first the size of the market, and that was really impressive to start with, recognizing that Europe is actually the largest market worldwide in terms of number of establishments, and second in terms of revenue after the US. So that was really, was really striking for us. Then in Europe, you really have the number one top player, which is France. And I mean, far ahead from every other country in Europe. So we realized that France was actually, the perfect playground to start working on this niche, which is outdoor accommodation. Then when we're talking about size, you also have to acknowledge the growth. And the growth is also very impressive. And I mean, the market has been growing for the past 20 years. I mean, put aside what happened during COVID, and even there, COVID had a much smaller impact than it had on the wider hospitality. So growth is really impressive, and not only in terms of overnight stays. I mean, I think we're talking about plus 25% in the past 10 years, which is what it is. But when we're looking at revenue, I mean, the revenues have actually doubled in 10 years. So that is really impressive. And what does that say? It says that actually the market has actually totally transformed itself from, the basic pitch tents, and has transformed into a sort of resort type product with really high level accommodations. So really a huge transformation towards a more resort type product. And what we have seen also is the emergence of famous mobile homes, which have become I would say, a standard now in the outdoor hospitality sector. And quite funny enough, you don't have one standard of mobile homes. Now it's a bit like in a hotel, when you're going to have your sort of standard room, upscale room, suite, etc. Well, you're going to have exactly the same diversification in a campsite. So really, you're seeing these sort of standards that you're used to seeing in the traditional hospitality. And then also during this sort of learning curve, we actually realized that you have these sort of very, very large players which have emerged in the sector, with large investors, essentially private equity investors, that have supported the consolidation of the sector. So very large players, and which helped attract institutional investors to actually, rush into the sector. So we saw BNP, Swiss Life, obviously. We're not that many actually, but I mean, I think that was the real switch was when we were actually able to identify these really big players, which give you sort of the proper guarantees that you're, you know, that you're entering not only into a system which is cash generating, but also with players that offer very strong guarantees.
Yeah, and the other side of the medal is that now many people are starting to get interested into the campsite industry. So the prices are rising a little bit from what you used to from 2018. So how do you manage to keep profitability as an investor when the price is growing?
Well, yeah, obviously, the price is growing on very mature assets, and that's the whole fun in the game. When you're investing in that sector, is really creating value. It's not just buying mature assets. Well, actually, I mean, we entered the sector by acquiring a a very mature portfolio. But I think now the real challenge is identifying these assets that have huge potential, and there are loads. Today, the market is in the hands. 11%, I think, of the market is in the hands of these major operators, which means that all the rest is in the hands of family owners, independent operators. So I mean, and they are sort of very poorly managed. So there's really huge opportunities still today to go and pick the right asset at the right price and then work around that and create value. So obviously, I mean, the prices are rising for very mature assets, and we've seen it with our portfolio. I mean, to give you an illustration, our historical portfolio, I think the rent coverage when we bought it was in the range of 2, above 2, which means EBITDA over rent was 2 and a bit. By creating value, I think now, after 7 years, we're close to 3. So that's really impressive.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that in the traditional hospitality field.
So many ways to keep growing, but you told us at the beginning France is the main market for the campsite industry,
Yeah.
at least in Europe. Second is the US. But we have big regulatory constraints in France. So how do this industry manages to keep developing, and how do you manage to help them grow?
Well, that's a good question. The fact is that the prospects for new developments in the outdoor hospitality sectors are very low, not to say practically inexistent. In France, for instance, the coastal regulations are so strict that it is practically impossible to develop a new campsite. Actually, the local authorities do not grant any planning permits anymore. So that's totally out of the question. No, the whole challenge is actually in redeveloping existing underperforming sites. So that is the growth strategy is really there. And so that's really the case for France. I would say in Southern Europe, in countries such as Spain, Portugal, Greece, I would say that the regulatory constraints are a little bit more permissive. And for and coastal regulations are more permissive for low impact camping. So you can see, we have seen a couple of newly built campsites, which you would never see in France. So I would say in Southern Europe, it's a bit of a mix between new developments and upgrading. The real focus is really upgrading, improving your property facilities and upgrading your accommodation.
Because actually in front of that you have a really strong demand. People are willing to go to campsite, to, I don't know, sleep in a tree or on a lake or in a tent if they have never. So the prices for the customer and for the investor, the one who wants to buy a campsite, is still going to keep growing. What are your forecasts as an investor for the sector?
Wow. Honestly, when you look at the past figures, you can be pretty confident. We saw what happened during the pandemic, and that's a good illustration, you know. We work on the wider hospitality sector, and obviously it was a dramatic period for everyone, and. Well, actually, in the outdoor accommodation sector, they were the only operators that continued to pay their rent, which was, 100% of their rent was paid during this period. So, the figures continued to rise. But, it's maybe due to, we exited the lockdown in May. So, yeah, we probably missed out on the May-June period. But July and August were amazing. So, and campsites in Europe, or I would say wider Europe and specifically in France, you do about 75 to 80% of your revenue is actually done during these 2 months. So, if you secure your operations in July and August, then, you've done your year. So actually now the challenge is how do you extend your season to, you broaden your season. And it's actually happening. It is happening because outside of these July, August, peak season, there's really something happening. And with, and mostly with international customers. You have a very strong domestic market in France, very, very strong, much stronger than in other countries. So, the challenge is really to try and leave a bit of space for these international customers that have probably higher capacities and higher spendings on site.
Catherine, it's not in your scope, but Marin, Nuno, does that inspire you? Do you imagine that you might offer some outdoor sleeping experiences in your resorts? Do a little bit of campsite at Hyatt or at Club Med?
We came from outdoor sleeping experience.
I was going to say that.
And we moved upscale, but maybe always extra experience around the resort, but within the...
Like you're looking for innovation. I don't know.
Actually, when we entered the sector, our first comment was that actually these campsites, they look like the former hut villages of Club Med. No, but really, and I think we're really there, in a certain way. So maybe huge perspective for outdoor hospitality.
Like
if we become as notorious as Club Med. That would be great.
No.
We do have glamping within some of our resorts. And to pick up on the trend, we just bought a company called Under Canvas in the US that specializes in tent camps and holidays. So we're looking at it.
And Emmanuel, don't assume just because I'm Hotel 101, we won't
Okay,
consider.
okay.
As
No.
long as the rooms are still
Tents.
21 square meters,
Okay, you
maybe
can
we
be in a
can.
tent. Okay. The deal is on the table. Well, thank you very much to
Thank
the
you. Thank you.
four of you.
Thank you.